Good evening, or hello, and welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I will be your host for today, or in the morning, or whenever you happen to be listening. Today, we have a very special guest. Well, I think he's special because I like and enjoy his work. It is the one, the only, the rather wonderful Mr. John Gilmore. So, hello, John.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's been over a year since you were on, so that's why I was looking back. So it's been some time. So I noticed that things have been really quiet for you. You've only done about 8-9 games.
I think so. I think I'm real close to 10 overall releases.
I mean,
that are out in the market.
I mean, have you actually been doing any work at all? I mean, you seem to be just sitting back and relaxing
I just sit back, relax, and play board games all the time. That's pretty much it.
Oh dear. But seriously, I think the way to look at it is if you podcasted as often as you made board games, you would probably be releasing about an episode every day at the moment.
Yeah, I'd have about the output of the McElroy brothers.
Oh dear. Is that the Adventure Times podcast?
Yeah, Adventure Zone and My Brother.
Yeah. I've
and
kind of
18 other podcasts.
Yeah, I kind of I heard about them recently on Staying In, and so I've downloaded the first couple of episodes to give it a listen because apparently other podcasts are now available. So I've been discovering these podcasts. No, but as we say. As I say, first of all, thank you for coming on. It's brilliant to have you back on. For everybody that hasn't listened to us before, thank you for joining and thank you for listening. You'll notice on the left-hand side that there are actually we're bringing in some ice cream tonight, and there is the usual selection of biscuits. On the right-hand side, there will be coffee, and there's also some fresh lemonade because we have to. But the reason that we do this is because we still think that there's not enough podcasts out there about board games. And the second reason is that John Gilmore's been really busy over the last year, and I thought if I didn't get him on now, we wouldn't have enough time to go through everything that he's been up to. So that's why
I'll always make time for you guys.
Oh, thank you. So last time we spoke, Wasteland Express Delivery Service, we touched on that. It was kind of under development, and it's gone on. It's now it's gone out to people. People are now playing it, and have you? Are you? How do you think the reaction's gone to that? Are you pleased how people have been reacting to that? Because it seems to be overwhelmingly very, very positive.
Yeah, it's been really good. I think you're always going to have the response has been a lot like Dead of Winter. The people that love it are absolutely going bonkers over it, and the people that hate it really like to talk about how much they dislike it. But I think that's a good thing. I think people being negative about your game is just as good and important for its success as people being positive.
I think there'd be nothing worse than putting out a game and people kind of not saying anything at all, not saying saying that they liked it, and then the people that you didn't make them kind of dislike it enough, so they'd say, well, I would do it this way, I would do it that way, because it's all about, you can never kind of make the perfect game. I
can only make the game that's going to make me the most happy, and then if other people like that, then great. And if they don't, then at least I still have a game that I want to play a whole bunch of times.
Yeah. I mean, the one of the things that's come out is people are going crazy over the inlays. You never mentioned about the inlays when the last time we spoke. Was that kind of was that part of the design decision when you were going through it, or was that something you discussed with Pandasaurus about the kind of making sure that the trays kind of stacked up and were organised as well as they could be?
It definitely wasn't part of the design decisions early on in the process. But once we got to the point where we were playtesting it, just about every week or every other week, we were meeting up and playtesting it with Matt and Ben, or I was playtesting it with my local group.
Yeah.
We realized that setup for the game was about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like to dump everything out of baggies and sort everything out and set everything up. And I'm a big fan of game trays and everything that they do. And someone had made an introduction with me with game trays, so I made the introduction to Pandasaurus.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, Nathan, Molly, you guys should really think about talking to these guys and see what we can do. And, they took, what was about 35 minutes to set up and turned it to about, I can set up the game in less than, usually about 7 minutes.
Do you do timed, time challenges?
Nathan did a video where he timed himself before it came out. So there's one on YouTube of him trying to time challenge himself. And it's real fast.
He does it really, really exceptionally fast. But I think that's the thing. Everybody, people talk about other games and the fact that you open up the box and you've got 15 baggies full of different components. Then you got to search through the baggies, and then there's a difference between the starting stuff that you start with a game and the mid stuff that you need to play and stuff like that. So I think that's why I think there's been a lot of kind of positive praise for it. And have you? In terms of going forward with Wasteland Express, are you planning? Or are you thinking about kind of potential expansions, add-ons, anything like that for the game, or can you not talk about that? Or
as soon as we saw the response to it, we knew that orders, before it came out, it was essentially sold out at the distributor level. Mm-hmm. We just had the few copies that we were bringing to Gen Con. And when that happened, we kind of started the discussion right away about, we should probably start on the next thing for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice because we don't really have anything planned yet, but they built us some space in the box to, add another tray worth of stuff later on. So.
All right. Okay. So the potential is there for you to be putting a whole kind of pile of goodies, yeah.
Yeah. You put 10 of the inserts in underneath the trays.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a good little bit of space underneath that we can squeeze stuff in later.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think we have some really good ideas. It's already a pretty big game. We spend a lot of time cutting things out, but most of the stuff that we cut out isn't stuff that we want to put back into it.
Yeah.
So, we're trying to be real picky about what we do, and there's always this period when a game comes out, and even though the reception's good, and I'm paying a lot of attention to what people are saying that are playing it, so I can kind of know some of the things that we should try to address in an expansion and try to improve.
Yeah, that comes down to the people that maybe haven't, as we say, they kind of haven't liked it, they haven't kind of been as passionate about it as other people, and it's good to kind of get their kind of feedback on it and see what they kind of think about it. For people that haven't heard of it or could look to Wasteland Express delivery service, is it still available now? Can people go out and kind of grab themselves a copy?
So right now it's sold out at the distributor level, which means that you're probably not going to find it online. I think last time I looked, Cool Stuff had 3 copies in stock, and that was it. And that was last week, so they may be gone. But if your friendly local game store has a copy, then it's going to be there. You'll just have to call around.
Okay.
The good news is we kind of, as soon as we thought that the response was going to be good, we queued up the second printing of it right away.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be on the boat with Dinosaur Island here at the end, middle to end of October. So in November, there'll be another full print run of it coming out.
That's pretty good. Are you...
Oh, yeah.
In terms of how it's doing, kind of... is it kind of going near kind of like Dead of Winter levels? I mean, is this another big Super Smash game out of the Gilmore brain, basically?
It's tough to say. I know the response has been real similar to how it was with Dead of Winter, where people are pretty divided on both sides of the fence. But over time, sales will show. I know that there's a lot of talk with foreign language partners right now, which would be nice.
Yeah.
And some other projects. So hopefully, I mean, I don't think it'll probably do quite as well as Dead of Winter, because I think the market's just starting. We had a real trend over like the last 4 years towards like micro games and entry level games and things like that, with the huge growth that the game market's going through. And I think that the market's going to upswing like over the next 4 years to like middleweight games.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be one of those games that hits that medium weight like right at the beginning of that upswing. So I mean, hopefully it'll be around for a while.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as I say, there's a lot of buzz going for it at the moment. I mean, when you're going to be doing, of you being the type of person that you are in terms of kind of always looking at mechanics and looking how to improve things, do you have a little list of things that you would maybe slightly alter in the existing game, or have you had to step away and say, right, that's it, it's finished, let's not kind of tinker with it anymore?
I mean, you always kind of have to draw that line of it's finished, we're not going to tinker with it anymore. But I definitely have like a pretty small list of stuff that I feel like we just kind of at one point, brushed our hands and said, okay, this is going to have to be done, and hopefully that's stuff we can do better in the expansion.
Okay. And then on the flip side, is you've mentioned it already, you've got kind of like Dinosaur Island, which if Wasteland expresses the dystopian apocalyptic future, and this is when I wish I picked a different word, then Dinosaur Island is the Dayglow Jurassic joyous world of pastel shades and bright colours, isn't it? I mean...
Yeah, I mean, both games have fantastic color schemes. Nate and Molly did a fantastic job with art direction on both of them.
Yeah.
They got a comic book artist to do the art for Wasteland Express.
That looks fantastic.
Yeah, and then for Dinosaur Island, they got Quan Chai, who is also fantastic, to do the art for that.
Yeah.
And in both cases, I think they're both products that just really jump off the shelves, and when people see the box, they don't look like anything else on the market right now.
No, definitely. I mean, definitely not. I think, again, it was almost like it was a strange thing. There was a lot of people that went, this game looks absolutely fantastic, and then people went, this game would look amazing if I was stuck in a forest and I needed some kind of bright light source to kind of shine out, because... It's really you've gone for kind of like you've not gone for like traditional color dinosaurs. I mean, you've got bright, is it bright pink dinosaurs in the game?
Oh yeah, the meeples the dino meeples are all bright pink. They're fantastic.
You've not gone for I suppose scientists out there will probably claim that we don't actually know what colour dinosaurs really were, so there could be potentiality that the Tyrannosaurus Rex did go about bright pink and orange.
Yeah, and we're getting a better idea of it, but we wanted to kind of like step back to our childhood, where dinosaurs were still... Like, we were just learning about them, and we didn't know a lot of the things. So, and there's 250,000 other games on the market, and we wanted a game that on the table is going to look completely different than those games.
So was it a conscious decision to kind of step out the traditional, I guess, the traditional art box and kind of make it kind of really, really stand out? Because you've got like this, you've got other little things, you've kind of like, as well as the meeples, you've got like the snap bracelets that you're going to be giving out as well.
A lot of those were just we wanted to do really fun stuff, because we put the pods in the game and the slap bracelets, and Pretty much they're all kind of low cost things that we could do that were exciting, that wasn't adding more content to the game.
But the mechanics, they seem to be kind of medium weight mechanics in terms of what you actually kind of do. So it seems to be a game that's still going to be you're going to be still very, very involved in it when you're actually playing it.
I've had a lot of people compare it to like the weight of Vinhos.
All right, okay.
So it's like a nice like light to medium worker placement game. And that's I kind of wanted to do that to get away. I mean, at its core, and I don't think people realize that, like, I mean, Dead of Winter has some kind of Euro-y mechanics to it.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Feld was kind of the inspiration for, like, the dice allocation mechanics in Dead of Winter for me. Which is funny to say that when I say Feld is an inspiration for Dead of Winter. But with these games, like, I wanted to try to, do... To me, the best games are what Matt and Ben call mid-Atlantic games.
Yeah.
They kind of take the smart Euro play and add in some Amerithrash style, randomness and fun. And that's what we want to do, especially with Wasteland Express. We want it to be pick up and deliver, but with combat and quests. And it's not just whoever has the most money at the end of the game. It's a race to 3 victory points, and you can get those victory points by doing different quests. And the quests can be economic-based, or they can be combat-based.
Yeah.
But even the combat is, like, kind of driven by the economic portion of it, because you need to get money to, like, modify your truck and, make it awesome.
I mean, with you kind of hitting your stride with... Are you thinking about other mechanics to kind of include in future games? Do you have a big kind of like ticking off list, or are you constantly experimenting with kind of new, maybe more complicated mechanics to introduce to kind of like a kind of a wider audience?
I'd like to think that I'm always experimenting. I still have a couple games that I'd like to check off my list. Asteroids, which is one of the upcoming Atari games. We just released the first one, Centipede. And Asteroids is a dexterity game, so that'll be my first dexterity game that I worked on.
Okay.
Because, Dead of Winter Flip 'em Up just came out, but that was kind of all developed by Pretzel Games. I didn't get to do much work on that.
Yeah. Did they send you did you get a copy of Flick 'em Up Dead of Winter then?
I should have one pretty soon. Yeah, I have some copies of it coming.
Yeah. Are you looking? Are you aware of what they've kind of done with the IP and the mechanics, and have you been able to keep a track on what they're actually kind of doing?
Oh yeah, like they've kept me abreast of the project, but it was kind of nice because they just kind of did it all in house, and then when I would see them at like the Gathering of Friends or at Gen Con, they'd update me on things and show me what was going on.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel it was kind of letting somebody kind of babysit one of your kids kind of thing? It's like, you be careful. I don't want this getting kind of... Don't let it stay up until goodness knows whatever time. Whatever you do, don't feed it soda just before it goes to bed kind of thing. Where is it... You still kind of got that protective arm around kind of like the Dead of Winter kind of IP?
I think maybe... if that had been my only game at that point.
Yeah.
But I think it's also like actual kids. I have 4 kids, so like now my kids are like, oh, I want to, go run around in the street. And I'm like, okay, just don't get hit by a car. It's fine.
You gotta love them all equally, haven't you? I mean,
absolutely. But like, by your 4th kid, you're like, oh, just do whatever you want.
Exactly. It's like the first one you're kind of letting, you kind of wrap them up in cotton wool and you gently walk them up the stairs and you shudder every time they kind of blink or cough or anything like that. By the time you get into the 4th one, you're asking them to make you a cup of tea by the time they're like 3 years old. To just
exactly.
put the kettle on. How do I check it's ready? Well, just just touch the side of the kettle, but really quickly. Don't want you kind of burn in your hand.
But it's been really fun to like see other people play with that universe. Same with the Dead of Winter comic book.
Yeah.
It's really neat to see somebody else's take on that, and I got to meet Kyle, who's the writer of it at Gen Con, and I also met Dabo, who's the artist.
Mm-hmm.
And it was nice to sit down with both of them, and like Kyle's a huge he got introduced to Dead of Winter, and he's like, I want to make a comic book about it. So I mean, he's a fan of the source material, and to see him like do these weird stories with these characters that I love is pretty fantastic.
Did they ask you questions about people's backstory, or had they kind of used other source material in order to flesh out the backstory, or were they kind of given a little bit of free rein with a bit of kind of editorial at the back to keep them on the right path?
I was actually pretty surprised. I found out when the official announcement for it happened that it was happening. So again, it was another project that I wasn't super involved in.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they were kind of given Charlie, who's the lead editor of Oni Press.
Yeah.
Kind of has an existing relationship where, we all go to Gen Con. So like I've known Charlie for a few years. Colby knows Charlie. Isaac knows Charlie. So we all talk every year, and he's a big game fan. So.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And with the continued expansions for Dead of Winter, what's your involvement going to be like for that? Are you kind of stepping away from that side of things? Because you've had the Long Night, and then there's the kind of almost like the factions game, the two factions kind of fighting each other, which the name escapes.
The Warren Colonies.
What's your involvement like in the kind of the next kind of Dead of Winter franchise games?
So the Long Night I was pretty heavily involved in at first. But because I'm freelance, it was kind of like a lot of my other games where once I signed the contract, I kind of hand everything over to the company and put my faith in them.
Okay.
Luckily Isaac is my co-designer on it, and he is full-time and the lead developer for Plaid Hat. So, he still, was involved in the entire process. But a lot of times it's just... once you sign that contract, the company takes over.
Yeah,
I'm pretty lucky in that like Pandasaurus keeps me pretty well involved in projects, and they still make all the final decisions, but they kind of come to me and they'll ask my input, or like we'll have meetings and talk about what they think the art direction should be.
Yeah. You've mentioned a couple of things that are obviously going to be kind of coming up, kind of going on. I guess one of the you've got the Kickstarter going on at the moment for News at 11. Do you want to tell us touch a little bit on that? Just tell us a little bit about that.
I'd love to. News at 11 is a recursive storytelling game where we play a group of newscasters in kind of a world that's gone weird. We start the game by filling out some information on the cue cards, and we'll write on them with marker, and it's permanent.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a bunch of cue cards, and you'll get 20 or 30 plays out of it before you fill them all out.
All right, okay.
But we start by filling out those cue cards, and then in the morning news, everybody gets one of those cue cards, and one of the players is the lead anchor, and the lead anchor will kind of start by telling what the big news of the day is using his card, and then he'll kind of kick it over to somebody else. I'd be like, well, now here's Richard with weather and traffic.
Okay.
And then you'd have to tell me about the weather and traffic using the card that's in your hand. And your card may say like banana hammock day. Because we had to fill in like a weird clothing item, and then there was already the word day on the bottom of the card. And then you'd have to tell us the news about why Banana Hammock Day is slowing down traffic downtown.
Well, it's obviously because, as per usual, there's always one person that decides that they've got to bring along not just one inflatable 6-foot banana, but at least half a dozen. So what's happened is they've had them in the back of their truck, and unfortunately across Junction 8 you'll find that there's about... Him and 3 of their friends have brought along about maybe potentially 24 floating bananas, and that has unfortunately caused massive 2 to 3 kilometre tailbacks across from Junction 8 heading into Junction 9. You might want to take the route through the city instead. And now, to sport with John.
Yeah, and then we'll go through. We'll tell the morning news, and then we'll take all the cards from the morning, shuffle them up, deal them back out randomly, and then give everybody one more card, and then you have to use both of the cards for the afternoon news.
All right, okay.
And then for the evening news, we'll take all the cards from the afternoon, shuffle them out, deal them back out, and then give everybody one more card for the evening news.
All right, okay.
So it has this like really nice way of, the things that happen in the morning end up in the evening and afternoon news, and kind of layer on each other, and build these fantastic stories. It's a storytelling game that I've played with a lot of people that say that they hate storytelling games, and they all end up loving it because the cue cards like really give you a lot of direction.
Uh-huh.
And I think, in my opinion, and I don't want to sound conceited when I say this, but I think it's the best party game in existence because it's not you just like reciting somebody else's jokes.
Yeah.
It's not just I'm playing a punchline to the joke. Like you get to be funny because you're a funny person. Uh-huh. And even if you're not a funny person, there's still ways for you to participate that you feel like it's hilarious. And it's one of those games that does exactly what I want games to do, in that it builds these huge moments and jokes that we're going to talk about for years. There was a game of it 2 years ago that we played. And somebody, I think the card was day at the bottom. And somebody, we were filling them out in the beginning, and somebody asked for a number. And I think Chris Leader was like a silly number. Okay. So somebody just shouted out silly 8. So we wrote down silly 8 at the top of it. And then we, in the news, someone started coming up with, like, they had to come up with what silly 8 day was. And they're like, oh, it's like this huge celebration in town where people eat 8 meals in one day. And it ended up coming up in weather and traffic. So it was like in the morning, and people were like throwing up in the streets because they'd already had like 3 meals that day.
Oh my goodness.
And everything ground to a halt. But we had so much fun in that game of it that one of the players, Curtis, like made everybody silly 8 t-shirts that say like silly 8 food's greatest day on it. So it's one of those games that does that sort of thing, and I love it.
And you've got the option to buy. If you get 2 copies of the game, you can obviously make a fun version with a kid. You can have kind of like an adult version, as long as you don't want to kind of mix them up.
Yep, it's not inherently dirty, and it's not inherently clean. You can play whichever style you want, which is nice.
Yeah. Of course, to me, when people talk about an adult version of a game, I would be expecting them to write things like mortgage and car payments.
Sometimes that's what it is. Or sometimes
that kind of thing. I mean, that's an adult themed game as far as I'm concerned.
Or sometimes you have to tell the obituaries and talk about why people are dying because of the genital birds that are attacking everybody's genitals.
Oh my goodness. And I mean, I guess you could put challenges in this to say that you're not allowed, as the newscaster, you're not allowed to kind of laugh or anything like that. You can put different challenges on kind of people as well, which is
it's super fun to try to not break character when you're playing it, because it's so hard.
Do you have a newscaster voice then, John?
I don't think I do. I'm not a good voice person. I can usually improv some pretty funny stuff, but I'm not great. We've had some people though. Oh man, they were so good as newscasters.
Because they don't just talk like normal people. They kind of put on. Well, over here in the UK, you can tell quite clearly, like when you have like a kind of a well-spoken person reading the news, because it's very kind of perceived tonight, and this is what's going to be happening, and they're very, very well-spoken. The American kind of newscasters, they kind of try and talk American posh, which is kind of some kind of weird hybrid kind of languagey type thing, and it's really difficult to. It's not something I don't think you would ever see an American newscaster out in the street speaking in the same voice that they would talk about when they were on the kind of the news. So it must be kind of like a whole.
It seems like they always try to like drop their voice down an octave, and tonight with the news we have.
Exactly, and everything's kind of clipped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was picking his feet in Poughkeepsie, but we found him later on. And there's a random quote for you.
I mean, the other nice thing about the game is that there's no scoring in it. We just decided like this is a game that you're gonna play for fun, and if everybody has fun, then that's the goal of the game. Like nobody plays Cards Against Humanity and keeps track of the score.
No.
So why even bother it? And some people are gonna say, well, it's an activity, not a game, but like you don't keep score in Dungeons and Dragons, and
no,
you don't win Dungeons and Dragons, and that's a game. So,
and there seems to be kind of like almost like a popularity for there to be enjoyment coming out of a box, which isn't necessarily a box of chocolates or a box of wine, but you've got the escape games, the exit games that seem to be happening at the moment. There's a lot of them getting made. Earlier in the week we had Tom Clare on with The Champion in the Wild, which is, again, it's about making up the funniest kind of event that different animals could kind of get involved in. So, as far as you were concerned, was this kind of like a nice, was this kind of like a nice palate cleanser to get involved in something where there wasn't kind of like massive amounts of mechanics? You could just kind of throw around some ideas of how it was going to work.
It was. I would say we still spent a surprising amount of time playtesting and balancing it. Part of it was just because we enjoyed it so much that we'd play it whenever we got a chance. But a lot of little things like figuring out like what lexical items work best on the cards, or we developed because we have a few players in our group who don't like games where they have to think of stuff on the spot. Yeah. So we came up with this producer role that doesn't actually talk during the game. They just kind of like sit off to the side and use these producer cards to like direct the game and like throw wrenches into it.
Oh, right, okay.
And introduce new aspects to it while they're playing it, so that even people who don't like to do that can still have a good time and enjoy it.
So is it kind of like the guy that would stand at the side of, like, say, the Whose Line Is It Anyway, like the improv show?
Yeah, kind of. Or like, the producer behind the scenes on, behind the camera.
Yeah.
Where, he's like writing notes on a board and like holding them up for the news crew to, tell them like, oh, cut to interview or things like that.
Oh, right, okay. So you can put people in situations where they're having to kind of make stuff up on the spot, so the producer can be quite an evil person if they kind of want to.
Yeah, they can. And it also has some safety valves in it, too. Like, if you have another player that's like kind of, not quite sure how to put together their piece yet, especially like later in the game, where you have multiple things written on 3 different cards. Like they can throw the technical difficulties card out.
Oh, right.
And, kind of direct the people to, take the pressure off that person and put it on somebody else and give them a minute to think.
Okay. Now at the moment it's on Kickstarter.
It's on Kickstarter right now.
I
think we have about 15 days left.
Yeah. And you can pick up a copy for 19 shiny $US.
Yes.
Which is
or 2 copies for relatively cheap, I think.
Inexpensive. Cheap as me in a miniskirt, believe me. Inexpensive is what we like to say.
Yes.
And let's see, you're almost at $8,000, and there's a target of 11. So you've got reasonable amount of time to kind of get it done. As normal, what we'll do is we'll put a link in the show notes so that everybody can kind of check it out, and it kind of looks a lot of fun. This is another project that you've done with Mr. Ben Harkins.
Mm-hmm.
And you've done quite a few with Ben now. Is this under the kind of the Floodgate Games banner, isn't it?
Well, originally I had signed it because at one point I thought I wanted to run a publishing company.
Mm-hmm.
So I had incorporated a company called Infectious Play Publishing.
Yeah.
And I had signed that and another game, Dud Dud Goose Caboose, that J.R. Honeycutt designed.
Mm-hmm.
And with my schedule the way that it is, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to publish games as well. Like, it just takes up too much time.
Yeah.
So I kind of I hunted around and tried to find a good fit, and Ben and I were talking, and we decided that working with Floodgate Games is going to be a good decision.
Yeah, because I've man, I've got I'm just kind of me going down kind of like what Ben's made is kind of like, yep, got.
Yes, Sagrada's fantastic. Legacy, Gears of Time.
Yeah, Epic Resort,
Vault Wars.
Yep, all good games. And then there's, as you said, Sagrada, which is very, very much well loved, and
yes,
people are quite happy they're able to. Has it come out again, Sagrada, quite recently? Have they published done a kind of a reprint that I
believe I talked to him last week at Grand Con, and I think there's a reprint that should be hitting any day now.
And it's been a decent kind of runaway kind of success. I mean, there's been a lot of love for kind of Sagrada, which is
everybody's very happy with it.
That's really, really cool. It's really, really cool indeed. So yeah, no, as I say, we'll put some links into the show notes so that people can check out News at 11. But now let's go to our space correspondent near outside NASA. It's John Gilmore, who's going to tell us a little bit more about asteroids.
Well, thanks a lot, Richard. So asteroids is the it's going to be the third actually in the Atari series.
Okay.
RDW Games came to me about a year ago and said, "Hey, we think we're going to be doing these Atari licenses, and we're going to get 5 of them. How would you like to essentially curate the entire series?"
And what did you say? No, I'm far too busy. Go away with your Atari license nonsense. Leave me alone. I've got stuff to do. Or did you?
Go away with these licenses of the games that I played constantly when I was a child.
Excuse me. I believe I'm dreaming.
I instantly said yes. I said, I don't even really care what 5 games they are. Because I played most of them.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
So, yeah, you mentioned earlier on that Asteroids is kind of like a dexterity game. So what's that kind of all about?
So essentially, one of the fun challenges of the whole series was to take what were essentially almost all single-player games and convert them into multiplayer experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And to not make them all just lateral translations of the video game.
Mm-hmm.
So with Asteroids, it's 2 to 4 players, and each player plays a spaceship that's kind of flicking around on the board, but they also control some number of asteroids. And the asteroids have like this slow plotting movement where you're using these like essentially these little pushers to move them around.
Yeah.
And then you can turn them. So like the bigger asteroids kind of have less movement, but they move a little bit farther. and the smaller asteroids are more maneuverable. And you can store points in a couple different ways. I can store points by flicking from my shooting from my ship and hitting other players' asteroids, or I can store by hitting the other players with my asteroids. And I think like the really cool visual appealing thing, and the thing that really ties it to the source material, is that the asteroids are these nice like 2-layer chunky pieces. Like right now they're made out of foam core in my prototype copy.
Yeah.
And they're 10-sided, so it's essentially 2 layers where the top layer is a lip, and then you put cubes inside of it to represent like how many hit points the asteroid has.
All right. Okay.
So that when you flick it and you hit it, like all these cubes like pop out and they look like pixels all over the screen, like the old Asteroids game.
How long did it take you to figure that out, or did you have like an epiphany? Did you wake up like 4:30 in the middle of the night and go, cubes, pixels, that's it, write this down?
So with all of these projects, it was nice because since I was kind of curating the series,
yeah,
I got to go and find other designers to work with.
All right, okay.
And I have a local designer, Jim Schock, who's really good at dexterity games. So as soon as Asteroids came up, I said, "Hey, start thinking about this." So he originally had the concept of the flicking around and shooting the asteroids, and we were just playing around with different ideas in the office because he lives, an hour and a half away from me. So he would just come down here for the day if he had a day off and work. And we were playing around with the prototype, and I was like, well, what if we like put the cubes on top of the asteroids? And it would kind of do this thing that like when you shot them, the asteroid would scoot out from underneath of it, and then just the cubes would drop down, and it wasn't that great.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, well, hold on a minute. So I like went to my workbench and cut out like a second copy of all of them, and then cut the middle out and put the cubes in there.
Mm-hmm.
And they would just kind of explode everywhere when you hit them, and it was really satisfying.
So how close are you to, you said prototype, so how close are you to kind of finishing the game, to getting the game kind of finished and kind of approaching kind of like a final version then?
Play-wise, we're completely done with it. We're real happy with the gameplay. And now it's kind of in IDW, and we're still playing it just because we're having a ton of fun playing it.
Yeah.
But IDW is trying to figure out the production part of it. And that's kind of why it was supposed to be the second game of the series, but it got pushed back to the third game of the series.
Okay.
Because they want to make sure that the bits are all perfect.
Okay. So what other games in the series are going to be coming out? What can we expect to see?
Well, Centipede came out at Gen Con, so you should be able to find that at most local game stores right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure I'm not sure if it went to Target or GameStop or ThinkGeek or any of the other places. But it should be pretty widely available. And that was designed by Nicole and Anthony of Cardboard Fortress Games. They are the designers of Laser Riders and Resistor.
Oh, Laser Riders in the video game box. In the video, the videotape box.
Yeah, and like the VHS boxes.
Oh, yeah.
So they designed that one, and that's the most literal translation of the series. It's 2 or 4 player, and in both cases, in the 2 player, one player plays the gnome and the other player plays the centipede.
Yeah.
And it's kind of head-to-head, asymmetric, where each side plays kind of completely differently. The centipede uses cards to kind of control the board, and the gnome is doing like this really fun dice draft to like choose what actions they have available. And then Missile Command will be the next one, and I'm just wrapping up everything with that. And it's a 4 to 6 player negotiation game.
What? But hang on, hold the phone. A negotiation game.
Yeah, negotiation game. The designer on that one kind of had this concept for this like really light negotiation game that kind of felt like Diplomacy, but plays in about 45 minutes and really fit the theme fantastically. So we kind of worked on polishing that, and it hums like it's about 30 to 45 minutes every time, and it's this really brutal negotiation where you're buying missiles out of the middle of the table of like the other player's colors and then negotiating deals. And the kind of the thematic tie to Missile Command is after the negotiation phase where we've made all our deals and bought all our missiles, we take them all behind our player shields, and we have this Missile Command board that we program out where we're shooting the missiles. And so the missiles are all color coded. So if you're the blue player, if I put a blue missile in lane number 1, then it's going to be shooting at your number 1 city in front of you.
All right. Okay.
Now, if I'm the orange player and you put an orange missile in lane number 1, our 2 missiles will hit each other and explode.
All right. Okay.
Just like in the video game.
Just like in the video. I was going to say that. Just like in the video game. Yeah.
Yeah, and then and beyond that, it's just like, so you negotiate, you resolve explosions. As soon as one player's cities are completely exploded, then you score, and that's the end of the game.
Yeah, I was going to say, if people don't remember Missile Command, if there's a scene in Terminator 2 where John Connor is playing Missile Command, and then I had to double check myself because I realised that Terminator 2 is like 25 years old. So there's going to be a whole pile of people that are going to go, what, Terminator 2? Yeah, it's going to, I think it just had its like 3D release, so it's if you go along and watch that, obviously other films about Terminators are available, yeah, it's about, you'll only need to stay for like the first 15 minutes or something, because that's when the scene happens, and then what to do is to go out and then track down a kind of a copy of Missile Command, the board game. I mean, when's that due to kind of be released?
I know. So Asteroids just came out.
Yeah.
I think Missile Command will be sometime in the first quarter of next year, hopefully. Maybe second quarter.
Okay.
And then Asteroids will be probably Gen Con next year.
I'm kind of I really need to definitely make sure I'm not looking at the internet for the next couple of months to see when these are coming out, because I am, obviously the first console I ever remember playing was an Atari 2600. So I remember playing kind of Space Invaders. I definitely played Centipede. Didn't play Missile Command, but Asteroids. Certainly remember kind of playing that at some point in some kind of machines. So this is kind of hitting a kind of a nostalgia button, definitely for me. Was there a reason that I guess they published them directly because they could, and they didn't see the point in kind of going to kind of Kickstarter?
Yeah.
Was that kind of like a conscious decision by IDW from the kind of the very beginning, that they were just going to go ahead and just kind of self-publish it because they could?
They certainly do a mix. They have pretty well defined like what is a Kickstarter game for them and what isn't.
Yeah.
So like Ninja Turtles was a Kickstarter game because it's tons of minis.
Yeah.
Same with Legend of Korra that's on there right now.
Yeah. I saw that.
But they had like 10 Gen Con releases that weren't Kickstarter games.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to kind of see the mixture where you get games that they need. It's almost a case of on games that are going to have higher production values, then it's kind of worthwhile seeing. Getting that. I guess the Kickstarter will help you decide what the interest is in the game, but it'll also help. Let's face it, tooling miniatures is an expensive kind of business. Basically, so. Yeah. But then on the other side of it, you've got kind of like Pandasaurus, because Wasteland wasn't kickstarted, but Dinosaur Island was, which was kind of like an interesting take.
They had a vision for the deluxe edition that they knew wasn't realistic to offer at mass market.
Yeah.
But they wanted to offer the deluxe edition with the metal coins and all the really nice plastic bits and everything else. And we knew that we just couldn't do that going direct to market.
So when are you getting your copy of Dinosaur Island? Have you got one already, or you got to wait until they kind of come in on the boat like everyone else?
I have a pre-release copy coming my way. We had 2 demo copies of it that we had kind of made especially for Gen Con. But somebody stole one of them, so I was supposed to use that the last few weeks at conventions, but I wasn't able to.
Some people, let's just not want to give them the time on this at all, but if you know who you are, I hope you're very disappointed in yourself, and I hope you get a paper cut. A big one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to know, like, what they're going to do with it. Like, you can't really take it out and play it, because people will be like, oh, how do you have this copy of this game that raised a ton of money on Kickstarter?
Are you going to wait 6 months? And then it's going to be the case of, you never told me I had this game, why didn't you bring it to us kind of like 4 months ago? You can't sell it, because the first thing that somebody's going to do is they're going to check it on kind of like, they're going to go and try and price it and see, well, how much is it? Oh, it's not out yet. Where did you get your hands on it? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on eBay and BGG just in case it pops up. But
yeah, because the type of person that would probably steal it would probably be the type of person that would put an advert in the classifieds to say, "Going 1 copy, Dinosaur Island, freshly from a trip to a convention. 1 careful owner."
Is there some kind of like, are there scalpers for this that you can go to? Like,
I don't know.
Is there a board game fence somewhere that I don't know about?
There's some kind of guy that's like, if you can get it fresh from a convention, then you're kind of on. I don't know.
Yeah, I can move this for you.
Exactly. I don't know anyone who could shift dice. No, he can shift dice. He does. He's got Dinosaur Island as well in the back. He's got Dinosaur Island. Has he got that copy of The Long Night as well? Yeah, he's got that too.
Yeah. We got the custom dice and everything.
So, I mean, you sound like you're just, you're like the juggernaut of the games industry in terms of the kind of the design side of things. Are you, with you getting involved in so many projects, and I'll learn to talk, do you sometimes have to kind of like take a step back? Do you have to kind of like say no? Do you occasionally get the point in the back and the waggle of the finger from your wife about you actually need to maybe slow down kind of thing?
Yeah, she and a few of because I have a really good local design group, and we meet up for playtesting every Tuesday night. Mm-hmm. And they will just kind of shake their heads when I say that I picked up a new project. And they'll tell me that I'm doing too much, or I'm pushing myself too hard.
Yeah.
But because I'm freelance, I know that I have to keep like a very specific release schedule.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even though Dead of Winter's done fantastically well, like I'm aware that it's going to have a tail to it at some point. And hopefully it'll keep selling at least some copies every month, but that number will be less and less until it kind of stabilizes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very aware, like as soon as I took that safety net of having my full-time job away, like I knew that I had to at least for the first few years, try to, A, be prolific, and B, release only games that I was going to be very, very proud of.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, Dead of Winter is great, but it's not my product at the end of the day. No. My name is my product.
Yeah.
That I have to build up. And, I kind of have a 5-year plan where, in 5 years, I'd like to be at the point where I can just work on, like, 2 big games every year and a half to 2 years.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm working, ideally, I'd have the Eric Lane situation where, I'm full-time with a company that really likes my work, and, I'm helping them to develop, and I'm designing things for them.
Are you got kind of looks on things like consultancy and things like that at all?
I've picked up a few things like that recently. I'm doing a little bit of development for a couple different companies.
Mm-hmm.
A few companies are trying to contact me and say, hey, we have this project we're stuck on. Can we bring you on board? So I've been trying to pick up a few things like that, too, recently, just to kind of flesh out my portfolio and say, I don't just design, but I do these other things, too.
Yeah. I mean, it must be difficult to... is there still a kind of a plethora of ideas that you have that you're still kind of thinking that you still want to get to the table? Are you more kind of taking other people's ideas and kind of reworking them? Or?
I really like doing both. Every time I feel like I'm completely out of ideas, I'll come up with something else. So I don't feel like I'm tapped out. I've done most of the games that I really wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Dinosaur Island was a big one that Brian and I started to talk about. I've got a comic book game coming out, which is really exciting.
Oh, okay.
Based on Wayward by Jim Zub.
Okay.
Which is a fantastic comic book. So it's been nice because I've been able to check mark off a lot of those boxes that I wanted to do early on.
Yeah.
So now I'm trying to, if somebody comes to me, like with Path of Light and Shadow, that wasn't an idea that I had at first. That was, an idea that Travis Chance had. He said, hey, we have this idea for a game, and we don't know how to design it. We want the Game of Thrones game that no one else is making.
Okay.
Because I feel like everybody else is making the obvious Game of Thrones game, where it's like it's either the Game of Thrones board game where it's kind of diplomacy and backstabbing, but they're all at the end of the day they're all like dudes on a map.
Yeah.
And to me, my favorite part of Game of Thrones is when the heads of the different households are like going around Westeros and gathering different armies and bringing them into the fold. So I wanted to explore that portion of it.
Yeah. What did you think of the Fire and Ice Kickstarter then?
It looked really good. I mean, Eric's design's fantastic. I don't think those games are bad, but whenever I start a design, I always try to approach it by like crossing off the obvious design decisions that other people would make. With Dinosaur Island, like we originally said that we wanted to do a worker placement dinosaur game, but we didn't want it to be like just like Agricola or just like Caverna.
Yeah.
We wanted to try to approach it from different directions. And so I always try to do that first.
Is there genres that you would have to push yourself to kind of do? I mean, are you kind of open to kind of doing anything at all?
I'm pretty open. I have a couple projects that I've recently, and we can talk about them after the podcast.
Okay.
But things that I didn't think I would do, that I will. Yeah, I can't say any more than that though. But yeah, there's some things I didn't think that I would approach that. But I'm fairly open. Like I have some really weird like I'm kind of to the point in my career where I'm doing some really weird games. Like I have a push your luck dice game that's about like building and maintaining relationships with other people. And it's weird. And it's more like right now I don't know if it's more art than game or more game than art.
Oh no, it's not the question.
It's like really hard to maintain like multiple relationships at the same time.
Oh wow, that must be kind of like when you're doing the kind of the brainstorming for that. It's kind of like you say, well, let's talk about relationships, and then you write a whole thing down, and then you end up sobbing in the corner because you're like, oh no.
There was one playtest of it where somebody was like, "Oh, like breaking up with somebody is a real feel bad moment. And I was like, yeah, I think it should be. Like, that's kind of the point, right? Like, when a relationship ends, it's sad.
Yeah.
So maybe the game's doing the right thing. I don't know if it's fun, but it's succinct and it's doing it.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Is it not kind of you get to the point where board games have to explore more than the kind of the emotions of joy and gratitude and winning, and having you kind of think about consequences and stuff like that. I know recently there was with This War Is Mine kind of seeming to go out in general release, there's a lot of people that have said I would probably sit down, put on some Radiohead, and then play This War Is Mine if I was in such a super good mood that I was being annoying and hyper and I needed to kind of calm down. Because I think certainly when I was a recent podcast I was listening to with Polyhedron Collider, and Andy and Steve were talking about their experiences with it. And it wasn't like they weren't kind of walking away going, this was a joyous game to play. They were kind of walking away going, this is tough, it's really difficult, it's not fun, it's an experience, and it's kind of to make you kind of learn about how desperate war kind of is for the people that are having to kind of live through it. So that's, again, I guess that's kind of, is that, I mean, you see it in video games, they're trying to kind of explore the kind of the emotional depths that you can take people through. I know the most recent one I played myself is the Hellblade one, which is the, I don't know if you've heard about it, it's about it's about a girl that's suffering from like the symptoms of almost like psychosis. So you're playing the game and it requests you play with earphones, and you hear voices kind of constantly in your head, kind of guessing you, second guessing you, telling you you're doing a good job, telling you you're a terrible person, kind of thing. So it's kind of, our board games at the point now where we're kind of, it's not just about totting up points and winning. Are people going to start exploring, kind of making people kind of think about the game, getting a bit kind of a more kind of a emotional investment? I mean, that's the kind of the video games are trying to do that. It'd be interesting to see if, well, I mean, in some ways Dead of Winter made you deal with kind of guilt. It made you deal with sacrifice. It made you deal with betrayal. So, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons that it did well. It wasn't just like, oh, look, we've killed 15 zombies, haha, I win, kind of thing. It was a case of, well, I'm going to make sure that everybody kind of starves in this round by kind of chucking away all the cards or putting junk in the communal pot, kind of thing, which is... kind of cool.
It wasn't just about like awesomely killing the zombies, because again, like that was the obvious thing that the other zombie games were doing.
Yeah.
I love Zombicide and I love Last Night on Earth, but neither of them make the decisions that I wanted to make.
No.
And I think it's nice because our video game or our board game industry had the video game industry kind of, breaking ground for us the last, 40 years-ish? Probably longer, right?
Yeah.
Probably close to 50 years.
Don't, because you make me feel even older.
And it's taken the video game industry a long time to get acceptance that games are, or can be art. Yeah. Not that they always are. And it's nice because now that discussion's already been had by video games, it's a lot easier to get people to say, okay, well, board games can be art too. But I think, for sure, like I really want to try to explore more of the human condition, because I think that's a beautiful thing for us to do. And I definitely hope more people do. I was really lucky early on when Fog of Love was running its Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah.
I reached out to the designer of that, and like he sent me a prototype copy of it. So like I've been playing Fog of Love for a couple of years, and I think that's another game that like it's really cool. In both that and Dead of Winter, to like watch people make decisions like not based on mechanics,
No.
but based on like how they feel.
Yeah, I mean, it allows them to sometimes kind of step out themselves a little bit and kind of play through the character and say, what am I going to do as a person? Kind of like, what would I do if I was actually this character in this situation? Which is always kind of, it's always kind of really interesting.
Yeah, and it's easier for some of us. Like, some of us play games for that escapism.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's really easy to slip into a character and make my decisions in that way. But for like other people, like my wife, it's really difficult for her too. So I think games can be a very powerful tool to do that.
Are you still doing your regular kind of meetups at your home then? Are you still getting a lot of people kind of coming around and experiencing games and stuff like that? Or have you had to slow that down because of how busy you've been?
At the end of last year, we bought a house, so we kind of slowed down a little bit while we were, getting the new house ready because we didn't have a place that was very convenient to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But we've kind of ramped back up. Actually, this Saturday is our next one.
Oh, right,
So
okay.
hopefully we'll have 20 or 30 people over Saturday to play games.
Cool.
Which is nice
And
because it's the first weekend in like 6 weekends that I'm not going to a convention. So I'm still
You'll be able to get
but
up out of bed and say, right, I don't have to have a 5-minute shower, grab a quick breakfast, get in the car and prepare myself to drive somewhere or fly somewhere or think about a hotel or something like that. You'll just be able to get up and go, right, put these sweatpants on, maybe get myself a shower, kind of have some breakfast and kind of chill out a bit.
And spend a day playing somebody else's games that I didn't design.
I know. Do you have to switch off the kind of the designer mode in your head? Do you kind of like step away and say, right, okay, I'm just going to play the game for what it is, and just enjoy it? Are you able to switch off and do you allow your brain to do that, or are you always constantly thinking, well, that's actually a really good mechanic, I could use it somewhere else? Or as you just use these games to just kick back, relax, and kind of chill out?
I have a really hard time switching it off now. But I've always been very non-competitive when I play games.
Yeah.
Like I've always played them just to have fun, and I really don't care if I win or lose.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice because I can just kind of say, well, I'm just going to play this, I'm going to have fun, and I'm going to kind of explore the space that the designers made.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is there any games that you have you've been enjoying recently then that have kind of really kind of caught your interest and caught your intrigue?
Well, I think Mansions of Madness is the best game to come out last year.
Yeah.
The second edition, I think it's a perfect 10.
Oh, right, okay.
I think it's a fantastic. It's the best implementation of an app in a game.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic because I played like this the very first scenario probably about 15 times, and it feels different every time.
Yeah.
And it has this really amazing thing that I can replay the same scenario and like try to figure out different ways to beat it that aren't very obvious.
So that's is that getting a lot of time to the table at the moment then, yeah?
Almost whenever I can get a chance. Like, it's one of the few games that I've been hauling to the conventions with me, just in case like I have time to play a game like at 10 o'clock at night after the hall's closed and we want to play something. Okay.
And is anything else kind of caught your interest at the moment that's going to be kind of that you've seen that's going to be coming out that you've went, oh, I've got to keep an eye on that or make sure I get my hands on a copy?
I just traded for a copy of Ex Libris.
Okay.
I'm really excited for that from Renegade Games. I think that game looks fantastic, so I'm really hoping it's good. What else? I just got Spirit Island, and I'm really excited to play that. I've heard a lot of good things about that.
Yeah, yeah. There seems to be games that come along which don't have a massive fanfare when they first come out, and then there seems to be like the hype train kind of builds for them, and there's a lot of people that kind of really like them. I think Dice Forge quite recently, kind of a lot of people have. I kind of got myself a copy of that based on the fact that people were just saying, "Listen, it's light, it's fun, it's glorious, but it's got an amazing kind of tray in it for organising all the stuff. Once you kind of have to take it out and put it away, the setup time is kind of like next to nothing in terms of how it goes. But it's a nice little shiny little game that has artwork that's very, very similar to the Dark Crystal because it looks like it's got the Dark Crystal kind of on the."
Dice Forge, right? That's the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
It feels like the art in it feels a lot like Seasons.
Yes.
Like it looks like it belongs in that world, or Lords of Zidit as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but and the Dark Crystal, I can see that too.
Definitely. I don't know if there was rumors about the if there's been rumors about a Dark Crystal game, if they're making that, or I don't know if I got
confused. But people have posted pictures of the box and the components, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. What's your view on the kind of the using all these IPs to kind of like build kind of board games out of it? Because I've seen good and bad. I saw the Kickstarter for Total Recall, and I think I spoke about this recently on another show, but it seemed okay, and it seemed to be like an intrigue type game where you were deciding who was the good guys and who were kind of like the bad guys. But what's your viewpoint on them? Kind of seem to be a new IP getting brought out in cardboard format kind of every second or third week. The Terminator game got announced. The Fallout 4 game has kind of been announced. I've seen Labyrinth kind of out there. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I think that the percentage of bad IP games is very similar to the percentage of bad games in general that are coming out.
Right, okay.
And people seem to be turned off by IP-based games, and I think there is just as many poorly play-tested and developed games that don't have IPs.
Yeah,
if not more.
Yeah. See, it's different. Like when you were talking about kind of like asteroids and Missile Command and Centipede, because you have to do something with the IP. You have to be kind of inventive to create a game out of that. Mm-hmm. But I'm just concerned that I've seen, again, maybe this goes back to video games, that I've seen so many lazy tie-ins between video games and movie IPs to kind of make me a bit concerned at the number that seem to kind of be coming out. We've got Resident Evil 2. That board game's going to be coming out kind of really soon on Kickstarter. And again, I heard people talk about the Labyrinth game, and they weren't entirely enamored with what had kind of happened, or what the kind of the end result was. But we'll see what happens. As I say, there could be, I've seen games like Anachrony where I want to get my hands on. I'm personally dying to see what's happening with Charterstone as well. Yeah. I believe there's been a gameplay video released, so I think I'm going to be
I think checking. Rodney just posted us how to play.
Yeah, I know. Good old Rodney.
But yeah, I think it's enticing as a designer, because I get excited about the chance to play in these worlds that I enjoy, like with Wayward. Mm-hmm. I told Jim that it's been really fun, like getting to play in this sandbox that he created, and trying to figure out how to make the game that does the thing that it's supposed to do the best way possible. Mm-hmm. And I think if a designer holds themselves up to making the best game possible, then IP games are just fine.
Yeah.
But when people are looking, like I can't mention specifics, but like I know of a game that's an IP based game that's going to market. They're going to kickstart it, and like they don't have any intentions of going to retail with it afterwards.
Hmm.
So, like, they don't really care if the game's good or bad. Like, they're going to sell however many copies they sell on Kickstarter and then be done with it.
Yeah.
And that's bad for our industry.
That's a concern.
Yeah. So, I mean, when people do anything, I mean, people smell blood in the water right now with our industry.
Yeah, you can tell that, yeah.
And there's people that are going to do awful, awful things, just like we've seen happen in the video game industry.
Yeah.
And I think if we don't learn from the video industry and the video game industry and try to address those problems before they happen, and have those conversations before they're kind of forced, I think we're gonna just face the same problems. That's like one of the reasons that I'm so outspoken about like social stuff in our industry, because I think one of the reasons that Gamersgate was such a big issue is because the toxic people had been in that industry for so long that they were everywhere.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, we need to try to like get that out of our industry now before it becomes a problem in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
So hopefully they learn.
It's about making people aware of, I guess it's, the unfortunate thing is, as soon as a thing becomes popular and you want it to be available to everybody, then ultimately you will attract kind of everybody. And then, it's almost like a double-edged sword. And I think I've said this in a couple of shows before, is that I think there are some people that like board games kind of being a niche that don't have the kind of the mass market appeal, because they're worried about if they open the doors and everybody comes in, what's going to be coming with it. And I think that happens to any kind of pastime or hobby that becomes kind of very, very popular, is the kind of the audience that will come in with it at the same time once everybody is kind of interested in it. So, and while board games have been around for a lot longer, even than video games, if you think about
absolutely.
what they've been finding them, it's kind of interesting to see what will happen over the next kind of 5-10 years as it grows and becomes even more popular.
Yeah, and when I talk about like our industry being younger than the video game industry, like obviously I'm talking about like the new
absolutely,
hobby board game industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I hope we do.
Yeah. There is,
and I think we could do an entire podcast about that.
We certainly could. But one thing that is very, very important is, and if I'm going to ask this question, I have to ask it to yourself, because I don't think there's anyone else more qualified to answer this question, is that the zombie apocalypse has happened, Mr. Gilmore.
Oh, no.
Now, your wife and your family, they are safe and they are locked up and everything is good, but you have been stuck in the middle of the city and you're making your way back from wherever you have been towards your house, but the zombie horde is heading your way, so you duck down an alley and there is a back door open, which you force open more fully, throw yourself in, and then close the door behind you while the rampant undead are heading towards you. When you turn round, you find yourself in what can only be described as an emporium of cardboard. It's almost like an entire rainforest has been crushed, pressed and coloured in front of you, because you've never seen such a collection of board games. In the middle of the floor there is a trolley. The trolley is light and nimble and manoeuvrable, and even has one of those air brakes so it can stop if you're going too fast down a hill. However, it is only big enough to hold 3 board games, but you can have any expansions. And on your way you will also meet players, whether they be single warriors trying to find their way back home, or entire communities of people. But the answer to the question of whether they would like to play a board game will always be yes. What 3 board games does the designer of Dead of Winter take with him?
This is a very, very good question. I have a very, very small list of 10s.
Oh, okay. You're allowed 3. You're allowed 3, and you can have any expansions at all to go with them.
And I only have 4 10s, so this shouldn't be too hard.
Okay.
First pick is Cosmic Encounter, the Fantasy Flight Edition with all the expansions.
Okay.
I wouldn't ever want to play it with all 8 people.
Yeah.
But I want all those aliens in there. I gotta have them.
Okay.
And also the dials from the new expansion, I think, are fantastic.
Well, there you go. Okay, that's quick.
So Cosmic Encounter, and then next is probably going to be Nations.
Okay.
With the expansion, I think that's the best Civilization game. I know everybody loves Through the Ages, but I think Nations shines. All right, the last one.
It's the last one that's a doozy. You know. Well, the last one, John. And there's a little bit of banging, slight scratching on the front door as the zombies have noticed that you are inside.
Mansion's Madness 2nd Edition.
There you go.
Yeah,
just like that. You pack them in your trolley. You rush down the road. You get home. You have adventures. Pretty much like Kane and Kung Fu, except board game related adventures where you solve problems. And you get back to the wife and the kids and everything's fine. So there you go. So thank you for answering.
And I realized I picked all long games. I should have taken Hanabi. Hanabi's my other 10.
Well, it's going to be a long time because I don't think there's going to be very much electricity going in there when the apocalypse kind of kicks off.
That's fair.
Listen, thank you very, very much for coming on. I'm aware I've kept you on for a long time, so
it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
If people are looking to find you on the interweb nets, where's the best place that they can find you, John?
The best place is on Twitter at John Gilmour, JONGILMOUR.
Okay.
Or on BGG, I think it's J Gilmour is my username on there.
Okay. Awesome. What we'll do is we will make sure that we will we'll put a batch of notes out there with various links to the projects that we've chatted about today.
Oh, I do.
Again, I can only say thank you for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you again.
Yeah, I look forward to. We'll have to get you back on again, but maybe not leave it a year this time because because it's good to chat to you.
I need to make it over to that side of the pond at some point.
Yes, I know. I mean, it's in our schedule at some point to kind of like go, to take our little show and go to a couple of places all around the world. We'd love to go to Essen. We'd love to obviously get to Gen Con at some point. I think that would be absolutely fantastic. And we might just turn up at your front door when you're having your next your big get together and make it 31 people instead of 30.
I'm a very short drive from Gen Con and Origin, so if you ever wanted to do them, just let me know. I'd be happy to put you up.
Right, okay, I've got that on tape, John, so I'm going to use that.
You're always welcome.
Thank you. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, you can find us all over the social medias as well. So you can go to Twitter, We're Not Wizards. We're on Facebook at We're Not Wizards. Our delightful podcast host Podbean automatically put all of our recordings onto YouTube. So if you search for We're Not Wizards Tabletop, you'll find us there. We're on Instagram at We're Not Wizards. If you like what you've heard tonight, if you want to get in contact with us, you can, whether you're just interested in asking us questions or if you've maybe got your own little Kickstarter campaign that you'd like to come on the show and speak to us about, feel free to drop us an email. It's magic@we'renotwizards.com. If you like what you've heard tonight, there's a couple of ways you can support us. I said I would mention it once. Yes, we have a Patreon and you can find it at We're Not Wizards. No, I'm not begging for money because we're happy where we are, but we obviously appreciate any support. There's t-shirts on Redbubble. They're very nice. I have one. It's very nice. But we do like it if you tell other people, though. I think that's the main thing. So if you jump onto Apple Podcasts, if you rate us or give us a review, just remember, don't give us a 10, because that'll make us big-headed. But don't give us a 1, because that will make us cry. Give us a 5, because it's kind of in the middle. It's kind of average. And we're kind of like a little bit average. But obviously the person who's not been average tonight is the rather wonderful, the fantastic, kind of little bit of a hero of mine, to be perfectly honest with you. It's John Gilmore. So thank you, John.
You're too kind. Thank you.
And there's only 2 more things to do. And the first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, John?
No, not at all.
Absolutely not.
Sadly.
We're reporting on a potential zombie incident over on the east side, but we're definitely not wizards. And and the second thing to do is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from John Gilmore. Say goodbye, John.
Goodbye, John.
Fantastic. And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s. If you fancy talking the news, talking the weather, talking the sport, check out News at 11. If you fancy taking yourself back into the retro arcade, then there are these lovely Atari games which are either going to be winging their way onto you at your friendly local game store, or will be available online, or will be coming out in the near future. But until the next time, goodbye.